Hey guys, welcome back to Doc Loyal Talks Comics, and do I have a good one for you today? I have got my true initial assessment of Dead Samurai, the first 4 issues out of, I believe, a 6-issue mini. This is from Wake Entertainment, written by John Domayan, with art by Ryan Benjamin. And look at this cover. Look at this absolute beauty of a cover. It's amazing. It's Bill Sienkiewicz. How they managed to get Bill to do covers, I don't know. But like I said, it's almost got a metallic sheen to the cover. See how it moves and how it glows and how it changes. This book is amazing. It tells the story of Aki-san and of Clan Kawamaki in 16th century feudal Japan. And it's so much more than a Walking Dead clone. This tells the story of the dead who walk, but it's not an overtaking type of thing. It's not a global, seemingly global type of Walking Dead. This is something that has been spoken of in hushed whispers. It is not anything that anyone really knows what's going on. But the artwork by Ryan Benjamin, it just starts with a crack-a-boom. And then you see the dead samurai walking. And you get to learn about the Kawamaki family, the clan, and how the leader, the father of this clan, loves his children, his wife, especially Asaki. And he's got a bouncing baby boy that's just come down, and his wife just had this child. And now the zombie outbreak has happened, and he must defend his family along with his trusted guards like Shinzu. Shinzu is a very strong and powerful samurai who is one of the second in command underneath Lord Kawamaki. And it builds so much. I mean, it's the one thing that I'm missing in this book. The one thing that I think is missing is there is no narration boxes. There is no omniscient narrator telling you all these little finite, minuscule details that you would get in other books. It's all told in real time. If people have a conversation, you're not let into, a box that pops up that says, what could their possible motivation be? So unless you do a lot of critical thinking, then this book leaves a little bit to be desired as far as the narrative story, but it's just so rich in building up family and protecting that family. And Shinzu is shown that he will do whatever it takes. Whatever it takes to protect Asaki. So he has made a promise to the clan leader, and Asaki, who is 8, is the only child that's left out of this family, other than Lord Kawamaki. His brother is alive, and he feels like Shinzu has let him down by not protecting his brother. But his brother decided to choose seppuku because he felt like he let his family down. And Shinzu was about to do the same thing, but he found Asaki fishing down by the river. It's a very, very strong opening to this series. One that I really, really dig. Second, we open with another amazing Sienkiewicz cover. This time with a very interesting perspective. One where you see the rider who's on horseback shooting an arrow and pulling it back with their teeth and getting ready to attack. And here you see more destruction at the Kazumaki compound. You get to see that these things have broken in. And so not only is the clan, but the entire village now at risk. So the mother hides the child and then is attacked. Meanwhile, Shinzu is rescued by Benki. And I don't know what's going on with Benki, but he was in the first issue as well as a advisor. And so it seems like there's more going on with him than meets the eye. Kind of like the first in a cross-gen universe. It's almost like he's bringing forth, and propelling some of these characters on this chessboard, making sure that the important characters don't get taken out too early, while at the same time, he's not all-powerful and he can't be everywhere at all times. But he takes Shinzu and Asaki in and says, we can travel to my monastery. This plague or whatever this is hasn't touched it. And then we see Tono, the second in command of the clan, now that his brother has committed seppuku in the first issue. And it was Nobutomo. And he returns home and he says, look, the castle. And he says, our Lord is in danger, we ride. So you get, again, that sense of family, that sense of belonging, that sense of how important it is to protect those that you love and support. And he gets there to find out, he finds Yama-san, who was with Shinzu, and he got bitten in the first issue towards the end, protecting Asaki. And he chose to slice off his own hand in order to try to preserve his life and not turn into one of those monsters. And so they pick him up and take him into the doctor, and that looks pretty painful. That looks pretty rough. But you know what? If it'll save his life, then, put that iron straight to the hand, straight to the arm. And he says, may I go with you to join the men of the search? And Tomo says, no, we need you here and we can't have you slowing us down. Meanwhile, Benki and Shinzu and Asaki have all been found by these raiders who are trying to kidnap her, and they're going to charge her ransom. They don't know what's happened and they don't know why she's out in the woods, but they know who she is. And sometimes, though, you get, it's been, I don't want to say perfect in language and perfect in how characters would probably react in that time frame. And this one set of panels here, all the people have gotten Asaki and they're running with her, and somebody says, be careful, you dolt, she's no good to us dead. And then the next panel, somebody says, you carry her next time, shithead. And the first guy turns around and says, you think this is a child's game? She can't, for us to get paid, she can't die. And so it's kind of funny. It just takes you out of the moment for just a minute, because, you know, I'm sure there was language like that, and I'm sure people called people names like that back in the day, but for it to come out in a book that's supposed to be in 16th century feudal Japan, it was just kind of funny. It was a funny moment. Meanwhile, speaking of funny, you do have one of those Walking Dead moments where this poor guy is trying to use the restroom and then gets attacked by one of those creatures. And they come down on him. And Asaki finds herself alone for the first time in the title. She's trying to find her way, and she finds herself alone. So what's going to happen in issue 3? Another beautiful cover by Sienkiewicz. All of these books. The cover to issue number 5, which should be coming out, I think, on the 28th, so this coming up week, is it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. Now, I pre-ordered that book from eBay, so I won't get it in on Wednesday when I get all my other books, but I assure you that I will show you that book as soon as it comes in, and I think you're going to love the cover that's coming. So here we see Asaki is bathing, and she's found by a guy who was up on the rocks, and he slips and falls. And she says, "And what were you looking at exactly?" "I was just minding my own business, picking berries." And she says, "Do you always mind your business falling down a hill?" And he turns around, and she says, "Turn around." And he says, "May I leave, mistress?" And she says, "Yes." And she says, "That's a warning. Next time it won't be a slap." And so she pops him on the side of the head. And then you see up in the top that a big guy is running away, and he's being chased by one of the zombies. And he eventually gets caught down by the river. And they fight. And this panel, for whatever reason, does kind of remind me of The Walking Dead, where you've got the hero or the heroine narrowly escaping, and then you've got this character here that's just trying to find her. He's intent. That's his one goal, is to find Asaki and kill her and turn her. And or actually, I'm sorry, that was not Asaki. That was Benki's assistant at the beginning of the issue, because Benki says, "I'm going to break the shaft of the arrow that's in Shinzu's shoulder. Can you pull it out?" And she says, "I suppose so." And about that time, then you get Shinzu waking up, and he's like, "No, I think I'm gonna choke you instead." And he wakes up, and he doesn't know friend from foe. He's confused because he's been unconscious. So he attacks somebody who's trying to help him. But we do get Asaki, and she's found by this guy here, and he says, "Shh, we're in a valley of silence, really. You know, these things are all around. They are all around us." And his name is Benjamin, and he's out to protect Asaki. Meanwhile, the young lady that was helping Shinzu is patching up his shoulder. And she says, "If I can help, please let me." And he said, "How can you help?" And she said, "My family of trackers. I can track where they went." And so they go through this village, which it looks like everybody's gone. And they come upon all the villagers who have been murdered systematically. And eventually the girl comes back, and she says, you know, she lives as of this morning. Here's footprints, you know, horse prints. Meanwhile, Benjamin is carrying her through the Valley of the Fog. And he's set upon by some samurai that are on horseback. And he says, "You're trespassing. State your business or die. Look at me. I told you to state your business." And meanwhile, we found a baby. So now we have to protect the other young child from the Kawamaki dynasty. So far, the last issue that I've got has got this really cool cover that somehow reminds me of the Sacrificers and Pigeon, but that's not this book at all. So you get a continuation of Yama-san, who now goes to his father, and his father says, "Why are you here, and what happened to your hand?" And he says, "I'll tell you, but it's a long story. The child is of grave importance and must be protected." And he asks his father, "You are unaware of what is happening?" And he says, "I fish, I sleep, and I devote my evenings to Buddha, as should we all." And Yama-san says, "There is much to tell you, father, and I fear that you won't believe it." Meanwhile, Tomo is still looking for his family, his brother, looking for Asaki. And Asaki has been put to sleep with special herbs to break her fever because she's been sick in the past issue, but not because of a bite, but just because she's been out in the cold. And, you know, if it's extremely cold, if it's extremely damp, and you get a little 7, 8, 10-year-old kid out there, then, you know, remember when you were that young and, you know, if you stayed outside all day, then you get sick. Well, these folks in feudal Japan didn't have Carhartt jackets and things like that. They wore, you know, these really light clothing. And somebody tells her, "Don't go into the fog." And it turns out to be her father. And in one of the coolest panels I've ever seen, she says, "Who are you? You know, who are you?" And they say, "You know the answer to that question." But it's almost like a celestial being. It's not just a bird. It's not just a flying creature. It's not anything physical like that. It's so much greater. And that's why he says, "You know who I am." She says, "I don't want to leave you." And he says, "You must." And then she wakes up. And that's all I'm going to tell you about that issue. But this book, all 4 issues, are so excellent. They're a little bit lacking because of the lack of narration boxes to give you some background. But at the same time, the story is flowing magnificently. It hasn't let up. We know where all of our characters and our players and our pawns are, but at the same time, you keep getting other pieces involved. So it's almost like a Taken or a Ocean's 11 kind of baby put together. So excellent, absolutely excellent series, guys. If you haven't read these, you need to track these down. You will not be sad that you did. Instead, you will be extremely happy that you found these books and you found the story behind them and you found the love that John Dolmayan and Ryan Benjamin, and yes, even Bill Sienkiewicz with these amazing covers has put into this series. You will find how much people love the books that they write, the stories that they pull out of thin air and create in these worlds that we choose to live in by collecting comics. So my initial assessment, buy these books. Find them on eBay. They're not expensive, but they're beautiful and they're gorgeous and they will go great in your collection. They will look amazing on a wall. Buy these books, guys. Thanks for joining. Thanks for watching. I see that the numbers are coming up on the channel. So keep telling your friends, keep telling your family, keep telling whoever you're telling, and get these numbers up. Keep this channel relevant. Keep it alive. By the way, I noticed earlier today, I was just sitting there with my wife at the hospital, and I happened to Google, was there a review? Had anybody done a review on this book? And what popped up but my video and my channel of the original initial assessment of this book. So this is not going to fall under initial assessment again. This is going to be more of a review video. But please check out all of my different, I don't want to say channels, but different sections on my page. And I've got wizard retrospectives. I've talked about what makes a hero. I've talked about my weekly comic pickups. There's so much great entertainment. I think I've got like 700 plus videos. So if you like what you see here, please join the channel. Please subscribe, like this video, get it out there and let YouTube know that you want more amazing content just like this. Thank you guys for joining me. This was a pleasure to talk about this book, and I cannot wait until issue 5 comes out. Thank you for joining me. Have a wonderful day.